Hi, Kate.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for hopping on this conversation with me. I'm excited to kind of learn more about you and your story and your business and all the things.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So why don't we just go ahead and get started there for anyone who's listening or watching, kind of introduce yourself, what you do, and kind of how you got to where you are.
Yeah. Well, I'm Kate Stephenson. My business is Kate Uncorked, and we're a weekly meal plan service. And the reason that I sort of got into doing this was pretty organically. I had sort of made a big life change and went to culinary school. I went to a school called Ballymaloe in Ireland, and it was all set on an organic farm in the countryside, and it was beautiful. And we were, making everything from scratch, growing our own vegetables, milking cows, learning how to make cheese, very sort of back to basics, which is really kind of how I wanted to learn to cook and the style of food that I like to cook. So when I got home from that, I just started cooking for people, anyone that would hire me. And I did a lot of events. I did dinner parties, and then I got into a niche of doing private chefing, and really ended up helping people coming into their homes, working with them on any sort of nutritional goals they might have, any food allergies they're struggling with, and would create menus for them and do their grocery shopping. And just sort of, every client had a completely custom meal plan every week. And I was getting busier and busier and just realized I didn't have the bandwidth to take on more clients on my own. And was just weighing my options and came up with this meal plan. So the program's called Le Plan, and it is 3 meals a week. The meals serve 2 adults, and yeah, it's basically meant to sort of be a hybrid of a meal delivery service and a personal chef. So that's where I am
Yes,
now.
I love it. And to everyone, I am a happy consumer of Le Plan. Very frequently. Love it. Just placed my order this morning actually for next week. So thank you. So many different things I want to touch on with that background story. So you noticed that you noted that you were undergoing some life changes before you went to school. And I would be
Mhm.
curious to know kind of, without getting into anything too personal, but like what that shift was that encouraged you to kind of make that big change, and also what your diet was before you, or like how you ate before you discovered this like very fresh way of eating.
Yeah. Well, I was living in New York at the time, and I had had various sales and marketing jobs, none of which were bad. They just like, I just kept moving from job to job, thinking that was going to sort of fix the hole that was becoming very apparent.
Yeah.
And I had always thought about going to culinary school, but never really knew why or what I wanted to do after.
Mm-hmm.
And it came time to resign my lease, and I was like, I don't think that getting a new apartment or a new job is going to
Yeah.
fix anything for me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And really just wanted to do something totally different, get away, and found this school in Ireland. And it was a great fit for me because it was only 4 months long. So I didn't really feel like, if I thought I had made the wrong decision, like I was giving that much up.
Yeah.
And so I just did it, and it was great. And I had always been really interested in, quote unquote farm to table, but just sort of
Yeah.
how food is made and where it comes from, and you know how our animals should be raised and the things we should be paying attention to. And I sort of started paying more attention to that myself, and knew that I wanted to learn more about it, and just thought, what better place to do it than on an actual organic farm. um,
Yeah.
So that was really, really interesting. And I learned so much. And I mean, I would say the way I ate,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, I loved to cook when I was living in New York, and I've always loved to cook growing up. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how much I didn't know until I went to school,
Yeah.
both about cooking and just about food in general. So it was really eye opening. I would say in general, I ate what I thought was healthy at
Yeah.
the time. And, I also just want to say that I'm all for balance. Like I eat pizza, I drink wine, I don't eat
Good.
100% gluten and dairy free. I think that's really important to sort of
Mm-hmm.
find what you can indulge in, but then also know what you need to fuel your body and feel
Yeah.
good, have energy.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. And I think, I'm still learning what works for me and still sort of trying to, balance is hard.
Yeah.
There are good weeks and bad weeks. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. And I think I love that about your story. And I think it's too important to gloss over because I think, and I am like you, when I was going through kind of like a difficult time in my 20s, like I thought that it was the external circumstances. And I also found myself in a job that I hated and thinking that if I could just have the perfect apartment or the perfect job or what have you, that would seem to solve all of the problems. But I think what is unique about your story and what I think a lot of people could get inspired by is that you did something that was probably really courageous and you stepped into something like very aligning for you. And you were able to take something that you were very interested in. And it was that kind of courageous step that you took that almost opened the door to like your life path that you're on right now. And I think that is just so cool
Totally.
because when you take that step, it's almost like the universe supports you and just helps to kind of like unfold you towards what you were meant to do.
Right.
So I think that that's so great. So, life alignment aside, like when you found yourself in this culinary program, did you notice changes in yourself, specifically physically and probably mentally and emotionally as well when you were kind of eating and living this way on the farm?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I sort of we were learning how to make breads and pastries and croissants and cheese, but also there was like a really heavy focus on vegetables and eating everything local and why that's
Mm-hmm.
important, for your community and um, for your body and for nourishment. And I feel like I didn't, every day we would have this beautiful lunch spread. We would basically spend all morning cooking what we were going to eat for lunch. And I feel like I did not hold back on eating at all because I
Yeah.
just wanted to try everything.
Yeah.
And I really like every day I woke up, I had energy, I had clear skin, I feel like I just felt really great being there. I noticed such a change. And I think it was definitely mental, but it was physical too. And I think it all had to do with just focusing on what you're putting into your food, how it's made, and where it comes from. I think like not all butter is created equal, not all
Yeah.
milk and cream is created equal. And I was definitely indulging in that when I was there. But
Yeah.
again, it was such a healthy, balanced lifestyle when I was there that it just I don't know. I felt so good. And I really, it was interesting when I came back to the States, I feel like I noticed such a shift and it was so much
Mhm.
more difficult to kind of like get myself back on track.
Yeah, and that was my next question because doing all those things and eating that way and preparing your food in such a way is easy when you're on an organic farm in Ireland, right? Like I'm just picturing that and it just seems like heaven. But like, how do you bring those things back to America where, our food practices are not nearly as pure and, even like soil quality has gone down, where there's not even the nutrients in the food, even though we think we're eating the kale and the broccoli, but we're not, so how do you
Right.
bring that stuff back to this society?
I mean, I think the best thing we can be doing is going to farmers market stores that carry local products, and really, talking to the farmers and the people there about how their food is how their food is made, how their animals are raised, what is going
Mm-hmm.
into all of their products, and making those connections. And I feel like since I've started to do that, making connections personally and for my business, I think there is a lot, there is an abundance of really wonderful product and produce available in Richmond, especially, but all over the United States. But I think the unfortunate thing is you really have to make an effort. I like when I grocery shop, I feel like I go to like 3 different grocery stores to
Yeah.
get everything I want.
Yeah, because there can be that convenience factor, and and the fact that, like, for me, going to the farmers market on a Saturday morning is an event, but sometimes I don't always get to go to it. But like, I'm going to need produce for the week, so it's like, the grocery store is literally $3 for me. But I will say that last week I actually did seasonal roots, and in my box was a butternut squash, and I get, like, the pre-cubed butternut squash from Whole Foods like all the time. But when we ate that, like, fresh local farm grown butternut squash the other night, like, you could just taste the difference, and your
Right,
body is just happier because of it. And it's just like,
right.
oh, like, why isn't this more available and abundant versus, like, and again, it's just trying to, I think it's like what you prioritize, and just having to put a little bit more conscious thought and preparation into it, and just knowing that, like, yes, for right now, it might take a little bit of extra work to ensure that you have the, like, fresh stuff at home, but in the end, it's worth it.
Yeah, and to tack onto that, I will say that, a lot of these vendors at the farmers markets have CSA programs,
Mm,
or just weekly produce boxes that you can order. So, I think it's definitely worth finding what you like and then trying to sort of make a connection and support our local farms.
yeah. So when you were kind of explaining your experience on the farm, it sounded like it wasn't only about what you ate, but it was like how you ate. Can you
Mhm.
kind of talk about that in terms of, like, the mindful eating that went around, that was happening there, and, kind of like tips for mindful eating for people?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I went into this process being very open-minded and sort of, I had done my research, but didn't really know what I was getting myself into. Um, but, I think their food philosophy
Mm,
is sort of, if it if it comes from the ground, if it comes from an animal, if it's real food, then how can it be bad for you?
right.
You know, they use, it's Ireland. They use Kerrygold butter in everything.
Yeah.
Kerrygold butter, there's one ingredient. It's milk from grass-fed cows, and so I mean, I think that makes all the difference in how you digest your food, and just paying attention to the ingredients that are in it.
Mhm.
And I think in terms of mindful eating, I think it's hard to sort of listen to your body and what it needs. But for me, it's not necessarily saying I have to have 3 meals a day, or I have to eat at lunch, or, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I
Right.
sort of, and I think there's sort of a social aspect to that too. So it can be hard to get away from it.
Yeah.
Um, but, I feel like some days I'm really hungry. I want breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And some days, like, I can get to 2 o'clock and have a smoothie and some fruit, and I feel great. And I think
Yeah.
it's just it's not forcing anything on yourself, but also like if you're hungry, then eat. You should eat.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Um,
And I think the trouble with that is that so many people are out of tune with the signals that their body is sending them.
mhm.
Like you said, like there is this societal aspect to the way that our meals are structured: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, have two snacks and a dessert, right? And
Right.
it's like almost like we're on this kind of like autopilot with the way that we eat, that we're not even in tune to our hunger signals. People either experience like two different types of hunger, and that's feeling like hangry, or they're like overly full because they've eaten too much because they haven't been tuning in. So, um, I think that that is such a great point, because you don't have to do the same thing every day. Um, and you can just like, if, it's not only about mindful eating at a certain meal with like, kind of like sitting down and being with your food and paying attention and chewing and eating slowly, but it's like mindful eating per day, and just being in that experience of that particular day and just asking what your body needs. Like, how is your sleep, or how is your activity level? And are you going to need more fuel one day versus the next? So I
Right.
think that is such a good point, because so many people just go through the motions with their food, and they're not even
Right.
asking themselves if they're actually hungry or not.
Hmm.
Um, and, I just think that when you create beautiful food as you do, it's more easy to be mindful because you're sitting down with all these colors in front of you. And especially your food that you source from all these other different local farmers. And it's just great to be like, to actually know where your food is coming from. It hasn't gone through the hullabaloo of like some big supply chain. You
Right.
know that you actually like sourced your kale or whatever from John, 30
Right.
minutes away. So
Right.
it's just great to completely be in tune that way. So um, another question I have for you was, I know that you said when you kind of shifted from private chefing to your meal plan service, Kate Uncorked now, um, that clearly you got a little bit more, you weren't like customizing it for people, but did you
Right.
find that your menu of options that you offer now encompasses like that wide range of audience, like that people can kind of like fall under the umbrella of that's going to work for them? Or do you still have people that like are like, oh, but I need this and this, and obviously that's not something you offer?
Right. It definitely, it's a specific service. And I had to make that choice when I was creating this,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there are people that just aren't going to like it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And there are people that it's not going to fit within their diet, and that's okay too. And I mean, that's a really hard choice as a business owner, is knowing that you just can't make everyone happy.
Yes.
Um, but I think the biggest thing for me is that doing the private chefing, someone has hired you to cook for them. And so you can sort of put all the creative energy and um, thought into menu planning that you want. But at the end of the day, you want to cook what they want to eat. And that's sort
Right.
of the game you're playing. And that's fine. That's just the job. And I just got to a point where I felt like I wanted more control over what I was cooking. And, I felt like I had a type of food that people wanted, and I didn't really know how to get it to them. And so I think that's how I just created my business. And it was a little bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah.
The food is specific, and also the business plan is specific.
Yeah.
Because, at this point, there isn't that much flexibility, but at the same time, I have business. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you kind of,
Yeah.
but I try, when I started this, I said, this is what I'm going to create. This is what I'm going to do. This is the food and business plan that I believe in. But I think there's a balance between listening to your customers and, um, putting something out there that you just want everyone to want. Um,
Right.
and so I'm constantly, like, as we just sent a survey, and, I think you really do have to listen to what people are telling you. So, I think it's hard to find a balance between having a strong brand identity and also trying to be flexible to what your customer wants. Because at the end of the day, like, this is a meal service and it should be convenient and it should help people.
Right.
So I want to make sure we're doing that while sort of educating people and helping them. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nourishing
And
them.
I think that's so important for people to understand, whether you have a business or you're wanting to start a business, because in the beginning, like, you're figuring so much out and you want to make as many customers happy as you can. And a lot of the times that comes with the cost of like sacrificing whatever it is you had in mind or your ideal scenario, because you feel as if you need to sacrifice it in order to like get this thing off the ground or, keep it going or what have you. But I think that when you can kind of find something that like really works for you and is sustainable for you from a business standpoint on the operation side, while also like maintaining the integrity of the initial vision that you had for wanting to start a business in the first place, like, that's going to attract people regardless. And it has to be sustainable for you because you're the one running it. So if you're doing something that it's not aligning or you feel like it's really draining on you, well, then that's not helping anybody. So I think that a lot of business owners are people pleasers, but that has been like one of the toughest lessons to learn, is that there's always going to be someone who doesn't like your product. It's like that quote that's like, you can be the most delicious peach in the world, but there's someone out there that doesn't like peaches or whatever. Yeah. You hear that and you're like, well, who doesn't like peaches? But this is just an analogy all the same. So I think that that's really great, and clearly, like, people love your service, and it's been something that you've been able to sustain and grow. So I think that that's the most important thing of all. So I want to kind of shift gears to talking about the actual food that you serve and your philosophy. And I know that you especially promote gut health. Can you kind of explain a little bit about that connection, and the foods that you incorporate in order to uphold the gut health philosophy?
Yes. So my style of food I call plant heavy, gut healthy. It is not a completely plant-based service, but plants are the focus of every meal. And I make no medical claims anywhere on my website. I'm not a doctor or a nutritionist. I am just someone who feels like I'm educated in the field. But, the more I read about gut health, the more I realize how it really is a trigger for so many things in our body, mentally and physically. I personally, I notice if my gut balance is off because my skin breaks out, I'm more tired, I'm lethargic, I'm moody. I think it really just affects so many aspects of your life. And I think there's a little bit of a disconnect with people understanding that food can really be medicine. And you can take as much medicine as you want, and you can exercise, and you can be doing everything right. But if you're not paying attention to what you're putting into your body, I really truly believe that everything is off. And so, when we create a meal, we make sure to have 2 servings of plants and a serving of greens in every meal. The greens come either cooked into the food as sort of a base layer or as a side salad. We do cook with grains. We use quinoa and brown rice primarily. Sometimes we'll use like a brown rice pasta or something, but it's pretty much quinoa and rice that we stick to. And then we also use proteins, animal proteins, chicken, grass-fed beef, pork sometimes, and then we'll do shrimp and salmon as well. So we have 4 categories of food, as you know, our greens and grains bowl, a vegetarian entree, a seafood entree, and a meat entree every meal. But again, it's really just making plants be the focus of every meal. And we also try to make it beautiful. So we're thinking about texture, we're thinking about, of course, how everything's going to taste, but also we're thinking about colors.
Yeah.
Because, I think if you're eating something that looks beautiful, it probably tastes more delicious.
Yes. And it like taps into that like mind body connection because you eat with your eyes first. And, and I think that the world of nutrition can be really confusing for people in terms of all the different trends and ways to eat and the diets out there and the foods that are one day villainized and then they're one day, people are, big proponents of. But I think that the common thread through all of it is just eat more vegetables and fruits. That plants are just like the number one thing that you should have on your plate. And, just they're full of fiber, making them really good for gut health. And when I was health coaching, I would always tell my clients, like, your digestion is one of your number one tools for communication that your body has. And I would have my clients analyze their poop and, the different symptoms that poor digestion brings on, like bloating and gas and constipation and diarrhea and all the things. And I know for me personally, when I actually went through kind of like a spell where I was, grain free and had my hand very heavily in the paleo world. And I noticed my digestion was off. I felt good. It's not like I didn't feel good, but I noticed my digestion was off. And then I tend to take this very curious view with my food, and I like to play around with it and see, because we're always changing, we're always evolving. Like the human body is never stagnant. So a lot of the times the different foods that we eat and the ways that we eat will change as well. And I think that, again, your digestion can be that tool of communication. And so I noticed that I was like, oh, I'm going to play around. And I actually think it was with your meal service. I was like, I'm going to play around with incorporating more gluten-free grains into my diet and see, what that will do. And my digestion improved. And even though this doctor over here and this book over here and this Instagram influencer over here was telling me not to eat grains, I was able to like ground down in my own physical body and be like, no, but this is working for me, So I think that that's so important. How you eat and which diet you uphold or whatever aside, it's like, yes, eat more plants and refer to your digestion to see what's working for you. And again, both you and I are not medical professionals, so always seek help from a medical professional if needed. But I think that those two big things can really be at the forefront of kind of figuring it out. And also knowing that day to day, it's going to change too. Sometimes you'll eat more, sometimes you'll eat less. Sometimes raw veggies won't work for you. Ayurveda, always encourages to eat more raw vegetables in the summer, more cooked vegetables and stews and soups and things like that in the colder months. And I think that that's always a really cool thing to come back to as well. But plants are always the number one or at the forefront of kind of everything that's encouraged, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so let's see. I think I have just one more question for you that I like to ask everybody that I chat with. And it refers actually as like a busy entrepreneur and, trying to like maintain self-care. I always like to ask people about their morning routine. So, Kate, what is your morning routine?
Well, when I'm not going to the kitchen at 6 a.m,
you're there early,
which is half the week. The other half of the week, I like to wake up and have a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And my favorite workout is a class called Plank in Richmond. It's a megaformer class.
Never been.
So I try to go to Plank. And then I come home and I normally eat a little breakfast, either like an oatmeal or a gratified bar or a
Thanks.
smoothie, maybe like a smoothie bowl. Um, but yeah, it's pretty simple. If I can get on a good kick of waking up early enough, I will say I'm not really a morning person. I
Yeah,
feel like,
really.
no, I'm not. You know, I like to be able to sleep in till like 7:30 or 8 if I can. But if I can get on a good kick of waking up earlier, I like to do like a hot glass of water with lemon and just sort of let that digest before I have coffee. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty boring. Just straight up black coffee, work out, have some breakfast, and start my day.
No, I love
I
that.
love that
Uh,
question. I love hearing people's morning routines.
I know. No, it's so fun. It's like fascinating to me. And I want you to tell people where they can find you and your website and stuff too, but I also want to hear what exciting things is in store for Kate Uncorked, because it seems like you're doing some fun things, ramping up kind of like new offerings and all the things. So I'd be really curious
Yes.
to hear about that.
Well, the website is just kateuncorked.com. My Instagram is Kate Uncorked, so that's where you can find us. You can submit just fill out the little information survey to get on my email list, and that's where I send out all my menus for the week. But exciting things, next Tuesday is our 1-year anniversary of the plan.
Yay! So
Kate
exciting.
Uncorked has been around for a while, but I feel like it was sort of in an investigatory phase for 4 years until I launched the plan. So that's next Tuesday. And so we are doing a few fun things. We're rolling out a loyalty program for our customers, which is exciting. We have new coolers that we got made.
I know. I hope do I get one if I order next
You
week?
get one, of course.
Yay!
You would get one either.
Thanks.
But something that we're working on is we're working on a meal plan for new moms that's going to focus on postpartum nutrition. So there's a lot of research out there about the nutrients that your body needs after you've had a baby to either promote healthy lactation and really just to help you heal and recover. And it's really interesting. It's a lot of it is based on Chinese medicine. So it's a lot of broths, a lot of cooked vegetables, but we're going to find a way to make it gluten, dairy free and delicious.
Yes.
But sort of like a gifting service is what it'll start as. And we're just going to see where it goes. So we're hoping to launch that this fall. We're in the process of testing a bunch of recipes, but we definitely want to get it launched before the holidays so people can gift that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
That's
that's such a needed service, especially as like new moms. I mean, there's probably so much that you have to get acclimated to, and then it's just like, oh, like how should you eat? It's probably something that isn't even on their minds because they're just concerned
They don't
with
have time. Yeah.
keeping a newborn baby alive. But it's probably one of the most important things because, you know, with breastfeeding and all that. But also just to be like a mail delivery service as well, because it's just the convenience factor of it. It's huge. So I think that that's amazing. And I know we'll be very successful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having this conversation. It was so great, you know, just as your friend to learn a little bit more about you and your story. So I really appreciate it. And I know I'll be seeing you around the kitchen soon, and I look forward to your meals next week. And I know I'm talking to you later today too. So thank you, dear. I will talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.